I really appreciate you listening to the podcast here. Let's go get started. It is Wednesday, July 31st. I'm going to say 98 days, but I think it's really 97, but I don't care because this is fun. And I feel like you guys are out there, and I hope all of us are doing little steps for good. It has been an amazing week. The big rally that happened in Georgia, for the energy alone, people, for the energy alone of coming together once again and being happy and celebrating someone who wants to bring America into the future. I really, really struggled when they were pushing on Biden to go because this man has worked so hard. And yeah, I'm older, so I hate being pushed out. But I got to say, the rejuvenation of the energy in campaigning and elections and remembering that we take signs and we stand up and we believe in our country and we believe in who we are as a people. Well, it ties in really well to what I wanted to talk a little bit about today, which is politics is not a bad word. It can be, and it has been exploited, and it has been ugly, unfortunately, especially in most of our lifetimes. I'm Gen X. If you go check my birthday, which is possible because everybody knows how old I was when my dad was murdered, which I was 18 in 1980, you're going to say I'm not Gen X, but I'm going to argue, because I'm the lawyer's daughter, that I am, because I was the oldest child. I didn't have any older siblings around or older cousins or anything. So the three of us, the three kids, me and my younger brothers, totally Gen X. We were latchkey kids. There was one Volkswagen in our family that we all fought over, meaning me and my mom, and then eventually my brother Jay. But it's so funny because we had like a 1964 Volkswagen that all of us could push and pop the clutch and start. So we all learned how to drive a standard. And this is all not relevant whatsoever, other than to say Gen X voters have been missing this. And politics, we've watched over our lifetimes politics change. And frankly, I think Gen Z has had a similar experience. It's funny because my daughter is Gen Z, and we talk about these two generations a lot because in many ways we're very similar, which is there was a huge cohort ahead of us that sucked up a lot of resources, made a lot of noise, and frankly did some dumb things. And for her, it's millennials were ahead of her. And for me, it's the boomers. I found out early in my career in Silicon Valley how much I was at the end of the boomers and really Gen X, because there were no opportunities, nothing like what the people 8 and 10 years ahead of me have had. In fact, half those friends of mine live in Palo Alto because they made bank. And I was late to the Valley. Even though I got there in 1989, I was late to the Valley. So what I'm saying is that Gen X and Gen Z have both watched huge cohorts move before us. And so as we come into this and think about politics, I want to maybe reframe politics to be what it should be and what it was when I grew up with. What I grew up with. I grew up with politics really being civics. And civics, if you remember, is pretty darn fun because it's the one way we can interact with our government and we can make a difference. And honest to goodness, I know people always say my vote doesn't count. And then they just screw up their face and walk away. And the reality is that's not true. Somebody like a Lauren Boebert and a Marjorie Taylor Greene won because people won't get off their booties and go vote. There are people who don't like them in their territories, but they won't vote because they think their vote doesn't matter or they've been bullied or whatever else. And that's not how civics works. Civics wants everyone to vote. Good, healthy civics and a good, healthy democracy wants us all to vote. And the reason I'd like you to think about politics as civics is that's why you want to get your families involved and get your kids involved, even if they're little. And I saved somewhere a picture someone drew from a little girl drew yesterday from the Kamala rally. And this is the kind of excitement I used to have as a kid. I used to write letters to Herbert Humphrey. What the heck? How cool is that? Like, I thought I could, and I did. And that was so powerful to write my own personal letter to someone I really cared about and who I thought was trying to make our country a better place and was going to go, and it was different than the other guy running for office. So this is your chance now to think about this as civics, where you get to decide what's important to you. You get to decide how you want to go out and be in the world as you watch this unfold. And you get to decide where you want to fight. You don't have to join a fight that you don't care about or where you disagree. And I'm going to say, and when I mean fight, I really mean just a position and represent that position to others. You have a tremendous power to influence the people around you. And you can do that gently, gingerly, and tenderly, and with kindness, because That's really how it's supposed to work. And you just want to bring ideas to people's minds and have them consider all aspects. I'm not saying you have to change their minds. That's the upside, but that doesn't necessarily need to be how you need to move yourself through this. Because let's face it, minds are hard to change. But the big way you start to change a mind is to at least get other people to listen. And so this class in civics, if you think about civics, it's a really good time to remind yourself that there are three branches of government. This is a little primer for anybody who forgot. Three branches of government: the executive, which is the presidential office. And this is important because a lot of things people think the president can just change everything and just do what they want when they come into office. No, they have to work with the other two branches of government. The president brings an attitude and a vision and provides the leadership, and yes, does staff their administration with people who are going to work on their agenda or their vision. But the reality is the next branch, which is the congressional branch or the legislative branch of government, the people who make the laws and who make the rules and who question things that are going wrong in our country. That's our Congress. That's both the Senate, which everybody has two senators from their state, and then the House, and you have various members depending, I believe, on your population. Although all of those things probably need to be reevaluated now that we're a bigger, better country with a lot more humans in it that have a lot more diverse needs and priorities. So, but those are two branches of the government. Of course, the third is the judiciary, and we know we have problems there. As a person who grew up in the law and who has deep respect for judges, what's happened to judges over the last decade in particular, I guess the Mitch McConnell years, is really disappointing because judges are not supposed to be biased. I know I don't know why I'm laughing, but it's just so ridiculous to me. Judges are not supposed to bring bias to the job. Like, they're judges. They're literally judges because they are supposed to look at the law and ideally interpret the law based on case history and how the law is like alive and a breathing thing, and it morphs and changes and ebbs and flows. And the judicial branch of government, is supposed to help us make sure the laws are adapting and flexing and moving to reflect who we are as a country. And here's a perfect example, because I think probably everybody knows that I got off of my anxiety meds, and I use cannabis now because, first of all, it doesn't have any hangover effect. It's not a commercial for cannabis, guys, but it just was a change. Let's just face it. For me, cannabis, because it's legal in California, it was a great change to get off of anything strong like Xanax or any kind of freaking anxiety drugs, which are awful. Anybody taking them, they're horrible. They just numb you out. So I use cannabis, but this is a good example of how our country has changed, and the judiciary is looking for ways, especially in the Department of Justice, about looking at our laws around cannabis. And then they may make a referral to the legislative branch to say, maybe we should federally legalize cannabis. It would help a lot of senior citizens who have aches and pains and aren't eating, and it would just make their evenings so much better, is all I'm saying. So those are that's when we say a democracy is alive and we are here to change it. And that's why civics is so exciting and important, because once you look at those three branches of government and realize what's important in this next election is that we vote for both the executive branch candidates and down ballot, which is all the other candidates on the ballot that want to support the agenda you want. So every one of those people has a point of view, including the judges, and you usually get a voter booklet that you can go through, and you can evaluate those candidates based on what your priorities are. So again, I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I'm going to tell you how to look at the information you need to vote. And I would not use social media to help you learn how to vote unless it's pointing you to things you need to go look at and learn more on your own. And you can do this with friends, and you can do this with the librarian. You can do this with anybody you want. They'll help you if you're trying to get information. And so will Google. I'd probably stay off of AI right now for getting answers. I would probably stick to just doing real research, like where you go look at the source. So in terms of civics, the exciting part is you get to campaign. You get to be part of the campaign. I urge you to go out of the house and join others. However you choose to participate. But it's a really, for anybody who's not introverted, it's a very rewarding feeling to go out and find people that are like-minded. I did the Women's March, and it was so fun. And it was so nice to see so much energy, families, men, everybody out there for the Women's March. That was incredible. So that kind of affiliation can really make you feel good about what you're doing and how you're moving in the world. So you're voting for the executive branch and the legislative branch. And that's all because we're trying to protect the judicial branch, which is currently being funded. I'm like searching for the right word, funded by people from the Project 2025 folks, the Heritage Foundation. You know them, you've heard about them. Nefarious, rich, absolutely moving on their own agenda. They don't, the country, for them, this country is just a means to their ends. We're just a bank for them. So I just want to turn them off and look at the rest of us, the regular working people who pay our taxes and schlep our kids to school and buy groceries and sit down at the end of the day and look at the laundry pile and go, I'm not even going to look at you right now. You make me so tired. Yes, regular people. So what you want to do, get involved. So the net is get involved in the campaign in the way that feels best for you, and campaigning is fun. You might want to knock doors. You might want to send postcards. We'll talk about that next week. But right now, the most important thing you can do today, and can you please put this on your calendar to check maybe on the first of every month, because we're going to run out of time here really quickly, but make sure you are registered to vote. This sounds so dumb, but they just found, in fact, I think it's in Arizona. They have just started a website in Arizona where you can go in and put someone's date of birth, the last four digits of their social, and their name, and it will eliminate them from the voter rolls. It's basically a giant, we used to call them narcs when I was growing up. The people who are going to narc on you, it's narcs are going to out you. So people who want you to destroy your right to vote are turning you in and saying you can't vote. There's no substantiation. There's nothing. It's literally a baby whiner line. It's a website where you put in this information. You can cut off someone's vote. We also have seen voter rolls. Mark Elias, if you do not follow Mark, M-A-R-C Elias, E-L-A-I-S, Elias, sorry, cannot spell in the air. Mark Elias is a man you should follow. If you do not subscribe to his newsletter, you should. He is a lawyer who represents our democracy. You're going to think he's blue or red, but he's not. He's democracy focused, and his newsletter is fantastic. In fact, he's looking for some more subscribers. It's called the Democracy Docket. It's a fantastic newsletter, and I'd like to encourage you to get that. But on the 1st and maybe the 15th, let's just be paranoid, okay? On the 1st and 15th of every month, put a note in your Outlook or whatever calendar you use to check your voter status, because bad things are happening everywhere, and in the swing states in particular, and you know who you are, and I'm sorry because you get bombarded with commercials we never see in California. I can't tell you how lucky I am to be in California because we don't go through the hell you guys go through out there with the commercials. But if you're in a swing state, you really need to check your voter registration. We're counting on you, and I'm sorry, it's a burden, but damn, I'm glad you have it, because I can trust you to go figure this out and get your voting in order. So we're going to start here. Make sure your kids are registered, the ones who are eligible to vote. Go get your friends to register, the ones who are even like, I don't know. You tell them, guess what? You don't have to decide now. You don't have to vote now. You just have to get on the darn registrar. You have to be registered. I'm like, what's the list? You have to get on the rolls. That's right. You just have to get on the darn rolls, the voter rolls. And that's how you will be eligible to vote. And that's all you have to secure right now, your eligibility. What you choose to do is down the road, but what you need to be able to do right now is be eligible. So that's today's big action item. I haven't heard from many folks, but I know you're listening because the downloads are doing really well. I hope you share this with some friends who are shy or kicking the tires. I'm really looking for women who might be, and men actually, anybody who might be more isolated like me, like we're just not out of our house very often. We don't talk to or see a lot of people. I'm still a tiny bit COVID paranoid, so that's part of my mentality. But please invite people to come to the podcast, because then you guys can talk about it later in the day. Or you could follow up and say, hey, did you register to vote? Jen said register to vote. Am I registered? Anything like that. Just get folks to play with you and start making this a community event. I'm so down. I want you to go to vote.gov. It's called vote.gov. You find your state, and at vote.gov, you can register. I believe you can get to your state portal where you can verify your registration. Again, I'm so spoiled because I'm in California, and our voter registration and our voting process is so good. They tell you here, you get a text that your ballot was received, and then you get a text that your ballot was counted. That's how voting should work. And we do it all by mail. We don't even have to. I mean, you can go vote at the polls, and the polls are really fun. And I'll probably volunteer again this year. And that's actually, going to vote is really great. But You can also vote by mail, which means you can vote early to make sure your vote is counted. It also means you can vote in safety, and you can do whatever you damn well please on that ballot. Just don't mess it up. Just vote. So, thank you very much. I enjoyed today. I will be back tomorrow with more news. There's a lot of news breaking every day, but I'll be back with what you can do to get your campaigning going at the pace that works right for you. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. Make sure you subscribe and rate, and I'll be back with another episode really soon.